Hey guys, it's Miss Cease, and it is time for our flipped classroom on analyzing characters. We are reading our selected text, A Raisin in the Sun by the incomparable Lorraine Hansberry, and it is incredibly vital that you know how to analyze characters. As you know, we've dibbled and dabbled in the importance of analyzing characters and the purpose behind that. However, in this particular lesson, I just want to delve a little bit deeper in analyzing characters and how reading quotes will help you analyze characters as you move throughout the text. So let's go ahead and get started. What I want you to do first is I want you to watch this video clip, one of my favorite movies from Forrest Gump. And you're just going to click on the picture right here. And once you click on that picture, I want you to watch this video clip. So I'm going to give you some time to watch it. I want you to listen carefully and pay attention to everything that's happening in this particular scene. And then we're going to come back and answer some questions, okay? So take as much time as you need, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that you've watched the video clip, here are a couple questions I want you to think about. How does Forrest feel about death? In this particular scene, we see Forrest with his wife Jenny, and they're reminiscing about his time in Vietnam and his travels as he was running. And then unfortunately, Jenny dies, and we're able to see this emotional side of Forrest and how he feels about death. So think about those things, how he feels about death. How does he embrace nature? How does Forrest keep the memory of his wife alive? I think it's a very powerful scene that we see at the end, that he speaks to Jenny as if she's still physically present. He still references her as she's still physically there. So, in an effort to keep her memory alive, he speaks and addresses her as if she is alive, even though he does know that she has passed away. How does Forrest honor the relationship between little Forrest and his mother? Little Forrest writes a letter to his mom, and Forrest shares with Jenny that their son wrote a letter and that little Forrest told his dad he can't read it, and he gently places it on her tombstone. So, in honoring his son's wishes, he's actually honoring the relationship that he has with his mom. And then, how does society expect a man to deal with these emotions? Does Forrest adhere to this logic or not? Forrest ultimately, as a man, he's not expected to cry and be vulnerable, in this particular moment of his life, but he lets those guards down and he just allows himself to be completely transparent with the death of his wife. So these are different ways that we analyze characters. Just simply through a video clip, you're kind of able to see the dynamics between a character and other characters and how they closely relate to one another within a particular film. So you're going to do the same exact thing when it comes to literature. So let's take a look at this. Character analysis. What is the ultimate definition? A character analysis is a systematic observation of the personality of an individual with special attention to psychological defenses, motivations, and common behaviors. So, in essence, it's literally taking a character of your choice, doesn't really matter, and sticking them in their livelihood underneath of a microscope. You're literally looking at every aspect of a particular character. If you remember from science classes, when you look under a microscope, you can't hide from anything. You're able to see something for what it is. And that is what a character analysis does. It allows the reader to take a character and look at every area of their life. And through that, you're able to see how it not only connects to other characters and how it connects to the entire text, but how it connects to universal themes and thematic and social concerns. So, what's the point of a character analysis? As we discussed this week, a character analysis strengthens critical thinking skills. It connects relationships and events of other characters to your character of choice. And last but not least, it shows knowledge of the text holistically. That's the biggest piece here. So, through analyzing characters, we're able to just hone in on who they are, how they connect to different characters, and how that entire analysis develops our story. But this is what you got to remember. So, this week we talked about the Titanic and how the Titanic hit an iceberg. And when the Titanic hit the iceberg, we know that the individuals in charge of steering the ship thought, okay, if I steer around the tip of this iceberg, we should be okay. But they didn't take into consideration the depth of that iceberg, how big it was underneath. And that is what an analysis is. Analysis is not a summary. A summary is going to explain what happened. It's the surface. So in looking at our Titanic, it's the tip of that iceberg. It's what we can see. It's everything that's on top. What we want is the analysis. It's beneath the surface. So an analysis is going to explain what, how, and why something happened. That is the analysis. We do not want a summary. Although the summary is great, it strengthens our thinking. It lets us know what's happening. That's wonderful. But we want to get here. Our goal is to analyze our text. All righty? Here are the components of analyzing characters. These are a series of things that I want you to focus on as you are picking apart your character. So remember, we talked about that microscope. You're sticking that character under the microscope, and these are the different components that I want you to identify. Tell me what your character looks like. How does Lorraine Hansberry describe Ruth or Walter Lee or Mama Younger? Tell me what your character looks like. Give me your character's occupation. What do they do for a living? How do they earn their money? Actions and behaviors, common things that you notice that your character does. Dreams, aspirations, and motivations. What motivates your character to do what they do? What inspires them? What are some dreams that your character has? And as we all know that with A Raisin in the Sun, one of our huge themes in this text is dreams. So this is going to be a big one. Give me beliefs and practices. What are common things? Not only does your character practice on a daily basis, something that they do habitually, but what do they believe in? What is their core of their being? What drives them to do what they do? What is their beliefs? Give me their social circles. Who does your character hang out with the most? Whether it's a romantic relationship, whether they're good friends, give me their social circles. Give me their traumatic or painful experiences, things that your character has gone through that have shifted their behavior. Personality traits, describe the personality of your character. And then last but not least, give me their family dynamics and relationships. This is important. Not only identify the members of their family, but the relationships that they have and their overall perception of family, past and present family members included. Alrighty? And this is a brief little chart of how we will kind of just sort out our ideas. Alrighty, so as you can see, those are all the different components. And you're just going to jot down things that you notice about your particular character. So let's try one together. If you don't remember this classic Disney film, it is Aladdin. So what I want you to do is, if you don't remember Aladdin, here's an opportunity for you to review the movie trailer. It's short and to the point. Review the movie trailer on Aladdin. And let's analyze Aladdin from what we remember. So we did a brief character analysis on Aladdin, and I asked you two questions. What is ironic about Aladdin's occupation and his personality? Well, we know that Aladdin was a thief. And that's ironic because in the beginning of the film, we notice that he steals a loaf of bread with his monkey Abu, but as soon as they find two homeless children, they're very quick to share with him. That's ironic for Aladdin's character's occupation because it completely contradicts the heart of who he is. The danger that Aladdin discovers in pretending to be something that he's not is that we notice in the end you get found out. So it speaks to the importance of being true to you, being true to who you are, and knowing that anytime you try to falsify who you are, you're bound to be found out. So that's a quick review of how to, or a quick sample of analyzing characters that we see in film. So now what I want you to do is I want you to read through this quote from A Raisin in the Sun, Act 1, Scene 2. And I'm going to read through this with you, and I want you to read quietly to yourself. Mama says, oh, so now it's life. Money is life. Once upon a time, freedom used to be life. Now it's money. I guess the world really do change. Walter, no, it was always money, Mama. We just didn't know about it. Mama, no, something has changed. You something new, boy. In my time, we was worried about not being lynched. You ain't satisfied or proud of nothing we done. I mean that you had a home, that we kept you out of trouble till you was grown, that you don't have to ride to work on the back of nobody's streetcar. You my children, but how different we done become. So what you would do is if you're given a quote and it's time for you to analyze that character, the first thing I want you to do is review the quote. Review what's being said. And in this particular scene, Mama is tired of hearing about money from Walter Lee. It's all that he's talking about is money, money, money. And she's so frustrated with him because where he believes that money is life, she's saying, no, money's not life. And your father and I taught you better than this. This quote illustrates the difference in generations, where Mama remembers what life was before she had children and even after she had children, and the hardships that she and her husband endured to ensure that her children had a better life than she and Walter Sr. had. However, Walter Lee, though he was raised in a great home and knows all of these notions and theories from his mother, is still consumed in money. The weight of problems is different. Mama's problems that she went through when she had Walter Lee and Bernita are completely different from the problems that now Walter Lee are facing. And the weight of those problems are different. And then last but not least, the perception of freedom. Mama speaks to, freedom in my day was not being lynched or being murdered or accused for something for just being black. However, for freedom in Walter Lee's mind is money. The more money you have, the greater life is. So the first thing that you would do when you get your quote is review it. Pick your quote apart. And then from there, you're going to get your selected character. So for tonight, for homework, what I want you to do is I want you to take that quote and everything that you've learned about Mama so far, and I want you to complete this bubble chart. Give me her actions and behaviors, dreams and aspirations, and move yourself all around the circle and come in tomorrow with a breakdown of Mama. Analyze Mama for class tomorrow, and we'll see what you come up with. Have a great night. Refer back to this flipped classroom whenever you get an opportunity. You're doing an outstanding job. Super proud of you. See you in the morning.